Hey there, welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 57. I'm Mike.
And I'm Chad, coming to you live from the Halifax Infirmary. I had a little accident on Wednesday. I slipped on some ice and lost my balance, broke my ankle in two spots, and fractured my tibia. So I've been in the hospital since Wednesday night. It is now Sunday, February 18th. So I broke it on Valentine's Day. I had surgery on Friday, and there were a couple complications. Unfortunately, I stopped breathing during the surgery, and my blood pressure plummeted. So they had to get a air tube in my throat pretty quickly. Anyways, I woke up from the surgery about 9:30, about 4.5 hours after it ended. So I've been here since, and I'm doing better now. Some diabetic complications are making it a little more difficult than usual to heal, and my blood sugars are out of whack. But I'm in good spirits, and we're looking forward to getting out of here soon. And yeah, so we shot a couple videos about 2 weeks ago to get some miscellaneous toys. So this episode will be Mike's miscellaneous stuff that we talked about, and yeah, so I'll probably be away from production for a little while. We'll have to figure out like Zoom, doing it over Zoom or Skype or something, FaceTime maybe, so I can get in on the action. But I can't actually buy any toys right now since I'll be off work for about 6 weeks.
All right, yeah, so as you can see, Chad's laid up right now, and he is going to be off work for a couple of weeks. One of our mutual friends did set up a GoFundMe for Chad to get some money because he's going to be off work for a couple of weeks. So if by chance you're a loyal viewer and you're one of a Chadling, one of Chad's big fans, if you want to participate, I'll put the little the link in there, and you can maybe go throw him a couple of bucks. Here's Chad, all sad in his little hospital chair, enjoying his bananas. So on the plus side of the broken leg, you got some new toys.
I did get some new toys.
Go ahead and plug those.
Mike was generous enough to bring me a couple of those little 3 3/4 inch Marvel Legend figures that he collects. So I got Moon Knight and Black Panther. These are actually the first two of these that I have, so it's kind of exciting to have two characters that I enjoy. And he also got me the first run of the new 52 Supergirl, so I haven't actually read Supergirl, so this will be a good intro into it.
Yeah, it's a good run, and I got a couple of toys to play with while you're stuck here in bed for a few more days.
Looking forward to reading that, and now I don't have an excuse to not read comic books, so.
Yeah, exactly. Chad's been buying comic books since I've known him for like the last 2+ years, and he hasn't read a single one. Too busy.
Yeah.
All right, so now you can get caught up. All right, so anyway, now that we've got our introduction here, we're going to dive into footage we previously shot from another episode that we decided to cut into two because it was running too long. Oh, look, next to his bananas, that's his piss joke. Right there. All right, so we'll move on to my toys. Best of, get better soon.
Thanks, guys.
This one I'll show you right quick. I buy a lot of the little 3 3/4 inch Marvel figures. They're cool. They come on these retro cards, but they were overcharging for them. Like they $20 to $25 here in Canada, which kind of sucks. So when they were first coming out, I was only buying my favorite characters. I had to be choosy. But in recent months, they've been starting to show up at our dollar stores, and they're just $5. And so I think that's an incredible price for what they are. So I've been buying them up whenever I get a chance. I've been building my collection. Anyway, I don't know if you're interested in any of them, but our dollar store down the road just stocked up. They've got like 4 full pegs of them, so you can get Moon Knight and Nova and Venom and like all these characters there. Anyway, so I had most of them.
Thank you for telling me that.
The only one I got that I needed was Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. Now, I know you got this particular Spider-Man in Marvel Legends, and yes. I did not get it.
You did not?
I did not. So the thing that makes this Amazing Fantasy based on his first appearance is that he's got black instead of blue on his costume, and he's got the web under his armpits. And And I have so many Spider-Mans in my 6-inch Marvel Legends that I couldn't justify paying like $40-something to get him just because he's got black instead of blue. But for $5, I will absolutely add Amazing Fantasy
Do they
Spider-Man.
have more of these there?
Yep, they had like probably 5 of them there. Yep. Now,
So our dollar store is in the one by Good Life.
yes, just
Okay.
down there by Wendy's.
Oh man.
So,
If I got this, I'd probably leave it carded.
yeah, these dollar store things are becoming a bit of a problem. In that, like, Masters Universe stuff has been showing up there too. I don't know if you know that. So, like, Origins figures and Revolution figures are showing up there for $5 a piece. I haven't seen any of the Revolution ones yet, but I have been seeing a few of the Origins ones. I saw Stratos, Hordak, and Skeletor the other day, and these are the deluxe ones. So it's like on
Hordak from Origins line.
from the Origins line, and he's on a wider card, so because he's got the extra head and all the extra pieces. So these are toys that I was paying like $40 for like a year ago, and now they're $5 at the dollar store.
Did ours have one?
No, I saw Skeletor and Hordak on Wise Road, right across over the bridge. Anyway, a lot of toys, I would say quality toys, have been showing up at our dollar stores recently. I don't know what that's all about, but it's a lot of different brands like McFarlane stuff, Hasbro stuff, Mattel stuff. So those are all brands I'm interested in. Marvel, there's been G.I. Joe stuff. There's been Star Wars stuff. I got a lot of the Star Wars retro figures there too for $5. Now, there's a couple of guys that watch the channel, Steve Sawyer, I think, being one of them. And no matter what I post, whatever video we're doing, he always comments to me. He's like, "Did you find anything at the dollar store recently? Have you had any luck at the dollar store?" So he kind of eggs me on a little bit to like, "No, I didn't go to the dollar store." And he was telling me about like, "Did you see these new Power Ranger figures are at the dollar store?" And I'm like, I don't really care about Power Rangers. I would almost say I don't like Power Rangers. I never watched it. I thought they were kind of juvenile and kind of silly. But if you recall, we talked a while back, I was considering buying the Dino Zord from Super 7 just because it was a big robot dinosaur. And I was trying to like take away the fact that it's a Power Ranger and just look at it as it's a giant robot dinosaur. Like, that's cool. But those are really expensive. That was like $60. And so I almost bought it and then I didn't. Anyway, the toys that are on sale at the dollar store are not the Power Rangers themselves, who look kind of like little goofballs, but it's the big robots that they pilot. And I'm like, you know what? If I take out of my head that these are Power Rangers, they're basically, because I'm into Transformers, I'm into
Voltron.
I'm into Gundams, I'm into Voltron, I'm into Godzilla, and he fights, Jet Jaguar and all that stuff. I'm like, so why am I being so biased against Power Rangers? I might as well buy these robots if I can find them. Anyway, I found them. So this is the guy that I'm most familiar with, and I assume probably most people are. That's the Megazord, I think. Yeah. That's the standard kind of season 1.
Megazord.
That's the big Zord guy that they always piloted. Then I got the same guy. I forget all these guys' names, but this is Megazord in black and gold. So this is like, I don't know, Megazord Deluxe or something. But he's pretty cool. But these figures, I will say, they do feel cheap. Like, these almost feel like they should have been at the dollar store.
Yeah, like there's really no give in these legs at all.
And so I don't know what these originally retail for. Like, I feel like I'm getting a deal on the Marvel figures and the Masters of the Universe figures because I know what they sold for, and I've seen them in Walmarts and stuff like that. I've never looked for Power Ranger figures before, so I don't know if these toys were available in bigger retail locations and at what price point. So I don't know if I'm actually just buying dollar store toys or if these are, like the He-Mans, like good quality toys that are just being discounted heavily at the dollar store.
Well, they're imprinted with
like they're
Hasbro on the bottom.
I'm just curious, are these like, would these have retailed for like $25, $30?
I would hope not. And
I would hope not.
I had a different experience with dollar store toys than you did. My buddy Adam told me that, like, because I have the same Buzz Lightyear Disneyverse one that you have.
Yeah.
He said that there were a bunch down at the dollar store one day, so I went down to have a look.
Yeah.
I picked up Fantasia Mickey, but it was in a different package.
Yeah.
And there was a piece missing. There was the display base missing. So I was almost wondering if that was just like a knockoff or if it was a damaged thing, and they just sent it to the dollar store to sell because I was like, it came with the card and everything, but his display base was missing, and he can't stand up because he's kind of like floaty with like weird legs.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I know maybe these guys are. I don't think they're knockoffs. Like I said, they are Hasbro, but they feel cheap. With the other things I've been buying, the He-Mans and the Star Wars and the Marvel, like those are all legit toys that were available elsewhere. I've also seen they had a whole section of the Princess Bride figures from McFarlane, and these are like your DC Red Hood figure. They're like 7-inch figures. They're really detailed. They're really articulated. And they had like the whole series of them there for $5 a piece. These figures would have been retailing for $40, a year ago. I don't want to go so far as to say I don't care about the Princess Bride. I liked it well enough when I was a kid, but it's not something I have a big attachment to, so I didn't buy the figures.
This cheap kind of plastic material reminds me of the fake Lego blocks.
Yeah,
I know the Duplo ones.
That's what they feel like.
Yeah,
you're right.
It feels like that material.
So anyway, there was 8 of these guys, is my understanding.
Buy all 8.
I bought 7. The one I didn't buy is that white Tiger Zord guy that I bought the reaction figure of. So I felt like, this is too similar to the reaction I bought already. Anyway, so this guy, I don't remember what this guy's name is, but he's a kind of standard.
He's the cooler of.
He looks like a Voltron-y kind of guy. He's pretty cool, but again, he feels cheap.
Oh yeah, those legs are.
Now that Tiger Zord guy that I have the reaction figure of, this is him in his like combined mode, I think. So once the other, I don't know, Zords snap onto him. This guy is a big chunky guy who, like, look at those legs on him. Like, this guy is just really, he's a big chunker, and he feels cheap. Like, he doesn't move much at all.
Oh man, this one, this one is definitely like.
Now this guy, I don't know if I even knew this guy did it, but like, I have a Dragon Zord in my collection because my late friend Andrew loved the Dragon Zord. That was his favorite Zord.
Yeah.
And when he passed away, I inherited his Dragon Zord. So it reminds me of him. And so this here is the Dragon Zord in non-dragon form. This is him in his robot mode. And I don't think I even knew the Dragon Zord did that. Mm-hmm. But apparently he does. So that's him as a robot with a big weird sword.
Are you going to put these on your Andrew shelf?
No, because for one, there's too many of them. They'd fill up my Andrew shelf. Plus, my shelf that I had devoted to my friend Andrew was all toys that were either his collection and stuff. So anyway, this guy's super dumb. I don't know what his deal is.
Yeah, he looks really stupid. He just looks like a red blob. Yeah. His feet look super cheap too.
His legs don't move. Like, he feels even cheaper than all the other guys. But one thing this guy does do that's kind of neat is you pull his lever and his head flips around, and then he turns into a Power Ranger. But like, he almost feels like he's from a different line than these other things.
Oh, that is terrible.
It's pretty stupid, yeah. And then the last one of these is this another doofy looking derpy robot. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with these things. I might not even display them because they feel too cheap to display. They feel like they're kind of fit to go into my miscellaneous toy bin, and maybe I can haul them out every once in a while when I need them for a photo shoot or something. But yeah, I can't help myself but buying them though. $5 is just too good of a deal.
His arms sound like a socket wrench.
Yeah. Also, this is a good segue into my next batch of toys. So it was my birthday in the middle of January, and my wife Vanessa, she actually bought me a brand new MacBook
Air?
Yeah, Air or whatever. So a new laptop. And I hadn't asked for one or anything. Like, it's great to have gotten it. But she said she got it for me because she just always sees me kind of struggling with the editing on my tablet and stuff. And she thought, clearly a MacBook is going to be more powerful.
Well, they talk to each other, too.
They do talk to each other. At this point, I haven't really figured out, I've had it for a couple of weeks now, really how best to utilize the Mac. Like, should we be shooting these on my Mac instead of on my tablet? Or I don't know. But we'll figure that out in the coming weeks as well. So maybe you guys will start seeing a difference in how we shoot this. I was wondering maybe we could do multi-camera, so I could look at the camera and then point over here and then pick up from a different angle. But I don't know if it's not like we're that dynamic of a show. I don't know if we really need to do that.
Well, not with that attitude.
Yeah, we're gonna start more action scenes.
We're just gonna turn into the old critic from the Muppets.
Well, like one thing, again, it might be way more work than I want it to be, but I kind of thought like where we hold up toys like this, and then later after you leave, I have to shoot separate footage and line it up with what we're talking about. It's a bit of a headache to do. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
That it would be nice. Maybe I could set the laptop up on the table in front of us,
and film it.
When I talk about the figure, I could hold it up, and it would be synced up, and I could, that might really save me some time. So that might be something we can do. Anyway, if there's any techies out there that have good advice on what we should be doing, let me know. But anyway, so it was my birthday. I did get a few toys. My buddy Guy, he got me a Marvel Legend figure, which I'm not going to talk about in this episode because I have a whole bunch of Marvel Legends, so I'm saving that for another episode. But then he also got me this little Greedo, which is a Funko soda figure.
Yeah, he was in the...
Yeah, so the sodas, they come in like pop cans, and there's chase figures. So, this is the standard Greedo, but I could have opened the can, and he could have been, I don't know, all gold or something, and that would have been the super rare version or something. So I guess that's kind of how they try to entice collectors to buy them. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I really like the original Cantina aliens. I always talk about it, how I wish they would make more Star Wars Black Series. So I appreciate that he got me this guy. This is my first ever soda figure. It's a line I have kind of tried to avoid because I already have way too many Funko Pops. So I really don't want to try and get into another line. But having just a one-off is fine. But do you have any thoughts on little soda guy?
I like Greedo, and...
Do you have any of these sodas?
I don't. I had a bunch of pops. Like, I still have some Batman animated series pops and like a couple other random pops, and I unboxed them.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I had the whole wall next to my display shelves full of Funko Pop figures stacked up because I had nowhere to put them. They were all Overwatch Funko Pops. So, anyways, I traded them in because I decided it was going too deep into that, and I can't really afford to collect different things, and I didn't see the value in keeping them. So,
yeah,
not really into Funkos, but this guy's cute. He's charming. He's
cute.
He looks like the episode 1 little Anakin guy.
Yeah, he does.
Guy. Greedo dude.
Yeah. So Anakin's little friend in Phantom Menace. Yeah.
He's like, that's what he said.
I'll probably have to edit that.
Yeah.
So you scare people listening to it with their earbuds on. Now they're bleeding.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to make your ears bleed. He's cool though.
Yeah,
I like him.
He's cute. So thanks, Guy. Now I've talked about on a couple episodes. I think I'd mentioned our local comic book store, Giant Robot Comics. They do a lot of trade-ins, and they always post them on Instagram. Like, oh, we got these items traded in. And I never have any luck. I'm always like, ooh, I would like that. But then somebody's already beat me to it. And they said, can I get that put aside? And sure. So a while back, they posted some Beatles Yello Submarine figures from the animated movie. And I am a big fan of the Yellow Submarine. I considered buying these toys when they first came out from McFarlane Toys like 20 years ago, but I didn't. So they don't come around very often. Anyway, so Giant Robot posted them. I missed them. And then they put them out again, because I guess the guy that asked to set them aside, he didn't buy them all. He bought like some of them. So then they put them out again. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to have to go to the shop and maybe buy some. So I went, and I saw them there, and I was like, oh man, they were like 10 or 15 bucks a piece or something, and there was 5 of them, and it was like, that's kind of a lot of money to throw down on these old toys that I didn't really want to spend right then and there. But they did have a sale coming up. For what was it? It was their New Year's sale, right? Or their Boxing Day sale.
Boxing Day sale.
Yeah, so for Boxing Day, they always have a buy 2, get 1 free of equal or lesser value. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll come back on Boxing Day, and hopefully they're still here. I don't think these things are necessarily in high demand. So anyway, it was only a few days away too, so I didn't buy them when I saw them. I went back on Boxing Day, but they were gone, and I was like, God damn it, I missed them again. And I was like, whatever. Anyway, so then my birthday rolled around, and I was kind of surprised that my brother Doug hadn't asked me what I wanted, because normally, we buy each other toys, but we both buy so many toys on our own, it's hard for us to keep track of what each other has bought. So I kind of need to tell him straight up, like, why don't you go buy me that Iron Man figure? So he hadn't asked me what I wanted, and I was like, that's weird. I wonder what he got me, sight unseen. Anyway, he went and bought me all those Beatles figures. I don't know if you knew that he did that, but
I didn't know.
So that was cool. So I opened up my little gift bag, and so it had all 5 of these guys. So if you're not familiar with it, like, these might look pretty strange to you. Like, they are pretty odd for my collection. I don't really know where I'm going to put them, but I actually just watched the movie just last weekend. My wife had never seen it, so I made her sit through it. She actually enjoyed it. It's a pretty trippy. It's from like the Beatles, like LSD period type of thing. So it's a really trippy ride with. And these are the evil meanies from the movie. So that is the lead meanie. Yep. And then there's this guy. There's really not much rhyme or reason. They all have blue skin. That's like the only thing that really ties them together.
He's the kid eater, though, right?
Well, this guy, they call him a snapping Turk. So his chest is like a big monster, and his chest opens up, and then I guess he's Turkish.
Eats kids.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually show him eat a kid, but he's chomping on all kinds of stuff. Then this guy here, this is another weird one. So this guy's just a big, tall. He almost looks like an Undertaker. He's got a big, tall hat, and he comes with a big green apple. And the apple just holds in his hand. And this guy's called an apple bonker. And these guys march around and they tower over everybody.
They drop the
apples on people, and the people turn to stone, like Medusa style. And yeah, I guess whatever. So that's him. And then this guy, I had to jog my memory because this guy isn't actually one of the blue meanies. This guy is in the movie, but he is kind of a different creature that they encounter on their trek in the Yellow Submarine. So this is kind of another weird little suck creature. He's kind of got like a horn or a vacuum for a nose, and he's got these big kinky boots on, but no arms. He's just it's a weird thing. And lastly, this dog. So the main blue meanie there, he's often got like a leash. He's got what should be like a pack of dogs, but instead it's just one creature with 4 different dog heads and a bunch of legs, and it's always pulling itself in different directions, and it's just a big mess of teeth. And anyway, so he's pretty cool too. So yeah, the only thing that's a little disappointing is when I saw these figures before the Boxing Day sale, is the one other blue meanie that is gone that I didn't get is the flying hand.
Okay, yeah.
And that was kind of my favorite one because I had when I was like a teenager and I was a skateboarder, I had a skateboard shirt that had the flying hand on there, and I always was really stoked to have that. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of wish I'd get that hand. It's not like I'll be able to track it down easily at this point, but these guys are pretty cool. So that was a nice surprise from my brother. You had any thoughts on these dudes?
Well, unpopular opinion, I'm not a fan of the Beatles at all. I think they're severely overrated. I will respect what they did for the music industry, but they were never my thing. So,
and I'm not a big Beatles guy either, really. Like, I just saw the movie when I was a kid, and I appreciated the movie more when I was a teenager and realized like how, because as a kid I didn't really understand what psychedelic was. This movie's weird. And then when you realize what a kind of trippy movie it is, I appreciate the animation, and I like the Beatles songs that are integrated into the narrative. But it's not like I went out and bought a bunch of Beatles albums afterwards. Like, I don't really listen to the Beatles. But it's a cool movie, cool designs on the characters, weird toys. All right. So speaking of brothers, so my little brother,
Brother Brian.
So he lives down in the States, and so I often ask him to buy me stuff that's always only available at Target and Walgreens because we don't have those stores here in Canada. So when he comes home, he often has a couple of toys for me to bring, or to bring me. So he brought me the Sunman 3-pack, which I reviewed in one of my past videos with the one of the Masters of the Universe episodes. But the other thing he got me is at Target, they have these Godzilla reaction figure blind boxes. And so these things are like, I don't know, $15 a pop, and you don't know what figure. There's only 5 different ones, so your chances of getting a duplicate are pretty high.
Yeah.
And so I asked him if he saw these, and he was at Target one day, and he had me on like video, and he was like, "Do you see the ones you want?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's them there." And he's like, "These things here," and I was like, "Yeah, buy me 2 of them. Like, just let's take a chance." So he bought me 2, and when I asked him, when you get home, can you open them up and show me which 2 you got? And he sent me a video, which I integrated into a previous episode. I won't bother sharing it again. But he opened up, and I got 2 of the Godzillas. So out of these 5 possible characters, there's 2 Godzillas, 2 Jet Jaguars, and 1 Mecha Godzilla. And I was kind of hoping for the Godzillas, and that's what he got. I got the 2 different Godzillas. So those of you who watch regularly know that already because I shared Brian doing his little unboxing. But my brother was home last week, and he brought the toys to me. And so here they are. So now I'm finally going to be able to show them to you a little closer up. So this is what they call Silver Screen Godzilla.
Yeah.
And that would be a cool little Godzilla. Like, he looks screen accurate, and that he's the right colors and everything. Except for the fact that I basically already have that toy.
3 times?
Well, you could argue I have...
Or 5, including the glow-in-the-dark.
I have a bunch of Godzilla reaction figures.
Yeah.
They're doing one for every movie. So there's a lot, that's 30 Godzillas right there. But then they're also doing glow-in-the-dark versions of them. And they're doing like neon versions of them and translucent versions of them. And I'm okay with that, as long as it's a different color. But this one here, I already have a black and white one. And this one here is supposed to be different. But they call it Silver Screen, which is basically black and white. The only difference between this one and the one I have is it's a very, very slight different shade of gray. And his dorsal fins have a little bit more of a shading on them. But like they're basically identical figures. And I'm just kind of thinking, like, Super 7 knows that Godzilla collectors already have that guy in their collection. Why didn't they make this guy like rainbow striped or something a little more interesting? So basically only give us 5 possible options, and one of them is like pretty much guaranteed to be one that we already have in our collection. It just seems a little dirty. I'm like, come on, man, give us a little bit more variety. So this one here I'm not necessarily thrilled with, but this one here is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's sparkly.
So this one here, I think they call him X-Ray Godzilla. Godzilla X-Ray Glitter. Yeah. So he is the same figure as this.
Yeah,
but he's cast in translucent green. And he's
full of gold glitter.
Full of gold glitter, yeah. And I'm fine with, like, that's what I want. Like,
yeah.
I don't care that it's the same mold. I knew what I was getting into when I bought them. But I like that he's painted different. And I just wish this guy had a little bit more variety to him as well.
Nice box selection, Brother Brian.
Yeah. Not too shabby that he picked it. Because I've watched a couple other videos where guys would buy these boxes. They'd buy a whole crate of them. And they were putting them on their little like food scales and measuring them, and they're like, "Oh, this one's like a ½ ounce off from that one, so that way I know this is a Godzilla as opposed to." And that way they would open up just the ones they wanted and sell off the other ones. And so that's pretty intense. I wasn't going to send my brother into Target with a little scale or anything. So the fact that he picked out the 2 Godzillas, that's pretty cool.
Sir, what are you doing with that scale?
Yeah,
weighing my Godzilla.
And I got a couple more reaction figures here. This is My Chemical Romance as the Fabulous Killjoys from their album Danger Days. So I've got the 4 members of the band. So can you name any of these guys? Are you a My Chemical Romance fan at all?
No.
Not at all? Do you like Black Parade at least? Anything?
Yes.
All right. I would assume you would at least know Gerard Way.
Yes.
So Gerard Way is lead singer. So this is him here. He has a little red hair and his little yellow Halloween mask. Comes all these guys come with little laser guns. So he's got a little yellow laser gun.
Well, that's awesome that your little 3 3/4 inch comes with a gun.
And your guy didn't, and he was probably a lot more money. Then this is his little brother.
Earmuffs.
Yeah. This is Mikey Way. And so he's got a little red ray gun. This guy's maybe the coolest looking one.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
And then this guy is Frank Gairo, and he's got a little green gun there. And by the way, these guys all have those are their real names, and this is Ray Toro, so he's the guitarist. And so what My Chemical Romance kind of is known for is they kind of do concept albums. And with the Black Parade, which was their big breakout, they kind of referred to themselves as the Black Parade. That was the name of their band. And they all wore those matching marching band outfits. They were all black and white, so they looked like some undead marching band. And that's what they wore on their whole tour. All their videos, they wore that. He had his bleach blonde hair at the time. So they were basically playing characters. And then when their follow-up album came out, it was kind of a sci-fi epic where the band was known as the Fabulous Killjoys, and they were freedom fighters, and all of their videos told a storyline. And so these toys are based on the characters they played. So Gerard Way's character is Party Poison, and then you've got I don't know, Jetstar. I can't remember what all their names are, but anyway, I think these are pretty cool. And I'm a huge My Chemical Romance fan, and I like the idea of getting action figures based on the bands I like. But it makes it a lot more interesting when your band is playing a sci-fi character like this. Because, my favorite band is the Smashing Pumpkins. But if I had Smashing Pumpkins action figures and he's just, standing there with his guitar, standing there with his drumsticks, it's not that I play with any of my toys, but it's kind of hard to play Smashing Pumpkins. But with these guys, you could play with them for the storyline that the album is it's kind of supposed to be telling. So it's kind of like Kiss, where they're playing characters, and they've got this whole backstory of them being demons and spacemen and all that sort of stuff. So, I assume you don't have a whole lot to add, but...
I don't. Not on these guys, no. I mean, they're kind of cool.
Yeah, there's some are cooler than others. But yeah, you should check out some more of My Chemical Romance. And they just recently got back together, but all of these guys put out solo albums while they were...
I did know that.
While they were broken up. So yeah.
Are they classified as emo, or is it...
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily like...
Punk emo?
Yeah, I would say probably emo is where they fall into. But I don't think they ever describe themselves as emo. Most emo bands don't describe themselves as emo. But yeah, I don't know if I'd call them punk. They're... I don't know. Post-punk, maybe.
So young.
Yeah. But anyway, good stuff.
Cool.
Here's another little random one. So you're a video game guy, much more than me. I don't really play video games, but I did like the classic video games. I liked Mario Kart. And my favorite character from the Mario world has always been Toad.
Yes.
And, when I was young, I played Mario Kart to death.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they've made toys a few times in the past, but especially with the movie that just came out last year, there have been a bunch of toys where you can get Hot Wheels of all the Mario characters. And I wanted to get Toad. I wouldn't mind getting a Koopa or, a Bowser even. But if I was only to get one, because I'm not big on Hot Wheels, I don't really collect dinky cars or whatever. But I did want a Toad. But my problem with the Toad, and I'm going to put a picture up here to show you guys, but I'll show you because I've got it on my phone here, Chad. I couldn't stand the look of the Toads that were available because he's kind of this weird fleshy colored mushroom guy, right? Mm-hmm. And the steering wheel on all the toys that were available was cast in the same fleshy colored as his skin. So that's one. There's another one where he's
really poor.
And it looks like he's just holding his dick or something. Because you see him kind of hunched over, and he's got this peachy thing up in his hands like this, and I just couldn't get past it.
I mean that's a really weird shaped dick. if that's...
Well, I don't know what else, but it's just like, why is his steering wheel flesh colored? It's just like, because Mario's wasn't, Luigi's wasn't. It's just they did it with all of the Toads, and it really bothered me. I'm like, that would drive me nuts to look at it. So I was in Superstore, the grocery store, the other day, and I saw this Toad, and he finally had a fully painted black steering wheel, and I was stoked to be able to buy a little Toad. So this guy's just going to stay on my desk. So when I'm working, I can wheel him around when I'm stuck on a long phone call and I'm bored or something. So yeah, this is not the type of thing I typically collect, but he's pretty cute.
Yeah, he is cute. Not on the same kind of wavelength, but my group of friends, we used to board game a lot, and then now they have like families and kids, so that it's really hard to get together. We used to do it once a month.
Yeah.
It's been like 6 months since we got together, but we have a racing game, and there is a fan base on BoardGameGeek.com, and someone created Mario Kart rules.
Okay.
And he bought a bunch of little Mario Kart figures to put in, and we built custom rules for this. So we have like a little Mario game.
Okay.
Anyways, that's...
Now, I just realized that we are at the hour mark here. We're probably a little over, so we should probably pull the plug on it. So I didn't even get through all my miscellaneous toys.
Okay.
But there is one more I want to throw in here, just because I probably should have showed it to you when I showed you my reaction figure Godzillas. So I bought another reaction figure Godzilla. So here's the box. It's kind of cool. This was one that you can only order online. I don't think it's available in stores. But this is kind of neat because it is Godzilla's skeleton. So this is dead Godzilla. The packaging that he comes in, it shows him kind of lying on the ocean floor next to the oxygen destroyer, which is the weapon that they used to kill him in the very first Godzilla movie back from 1950 or whatever, which we watched.
We did.
We watched together not too long ago. So that was pretty cool to get this little Godzilla skeleton guy. He looks pretty neat.
Yeah, he's cool.
And it's cool to get the little oxygen destroyer accessory as well.
Poor guy.
Yeah. But it is kind of odd because when this thing came out and I thought, like, wow, you don't get a Godzilla skeleton. Like, I don't think they've ever done this before. But then Super 7 also produced their melted Godzilla, which I've got here. I reviewed him in an episode not too long ago, where he's kind of half skeleton, so he's fleshy, but his flesh is all melting off. And it's like, okay, so now I went from having no skeletons to now a half skeleton and a full skeleton, all in the span of like a month. So, anyway, I think he's pretty neat.
Super cool.
So before we wrap things up, I do have a few toys that I want to tell you about, and I'll have to do it solo. So again, I apologize for the choppiness of this episode. What originally happened was that me and Chad sat down and we were going to shoot episode 55, which was going to be all of our miscellaneous purchases from the last few weeks, and episode 56, which was our new Masters of the Universe figures. As we were doing the miscellaneous episode, we got all of Chad's toys reviewed, and then we started doing mine, and we kind of ran out of time, and I don't like these videos to go over an hour, so we decided to pull the plug on that and move on to our Masters of the Universe episode. So, it was during the editing process when I was putting episode 55 together. I thought, maybe I'll just cut this episode off after we finish talking about Chad's stuff, and then I'll move the second half of it, that was my toys, into episode 57. And then I thought, by cutting the front half off, it leaves me more room to review the toys that me and Chad did not get to that day. And then, of course, because I chopped the video in half, I didn't have an intro. So I thought I was going to have to add an intro to the video, but then Chad went and broke his leg, and so I went and visited him in the hospital earlier, and we shot the introduction. So this bit here, I'm actually shooting last. So we shot the bit with us sitting in my room, then we shot the intro at the hospital, and now here I am putting the finishing touches on it. So these are a couple of miscellaneous toys that I have purchased in the last couple of weeks that I wanted to lump into this episode. So anyway, hopefully that isn't too much of a disjointed watch. Hopefully it flows okay. And if it doesn't, who cares? This is free, right? It's just YouTube. We don't exactly have high production values here. Anyway, this toy that you're looking at here, this is Mandarin Spawn from McFarlane Toys. This toy is new to me, but it is not new. I think this guy came out in 2022 or maybe even 2021. He's been around for a while. I just never bothered to pick him up until now. And the reason that I finally decided to pick this guy up was that he was on deep discount at Big Bad Toy Store. This guy, who normally retails for about $25, he was on for $6. So I couldn't resist him at $6. So I think this guy looks great. And it's hard for me to say why I didn't buy him originally. The thing is, like, I collected Spawn toys when they first launched back in the 90s. And I thought the Spawn action figures were incredible. They were so much more detailed than anything else that any other company was putting out. I loved those early McFarlane toys. And I had a whole bunch of them. But then he moved away from doing Spawn and he started doing other properties like Halo and The Walking Dead. And I just didn't really care that much about those other properties. And since he had abandoned Spawn, which is the brand I was interested in, I just kind of stopped buying McFarlane toys for the most part. But when he decided to kind of bring Spawn figures back after, I don't know, like a decade hiatus or so, I believe this was essentially the first figure in the line. Now, he did do a couple of standard Spawns, but they were included in the Mortal Kombat line of figures. So the Spawn was a little more stylized. He didn't look like he did in the comic books. But yeah, when he decided to actually do an official Spawn line, not part of Mortal Kombat, this is the figure that he launched with. And I thought it was a bit of a surprise. And I was just reluctant to really kind of get back into Spawn right away. But then I have since bought so many of the new Spawn figures he's put out that I thought, well, I need to get this Mandarin Spawn. But I'll tell you why I struggled to buy it. Like, for one, I think it looks great. Like, you guys are looking at him right now. And you can see all the detail. Like, that face sculpt is really cool. There's, like, lots of sculpted detail. There's lots of painted detail. If I have one gripe, I don't like that his head is kind of forced down. You can't really push his head back. So he seems to be staring at his toes all the time, which kind of sucks. But, like, look at the sculpted detail even in his weapons. Like, that dragon is, like, etched into the plastic. All this detail here throughout. His shoulder pad, he's got, like, a face sculpted in there, like a demon face or something. There's little heads all throughout here. Even the front of his armor, that's like, you know, like the front of a dragon or something there. More detail here. The sword has lots of little sculpted detail. The belt. This like kind of loincloth thing. You can see the texture in this. And you know, that logo or whatever that's like raised. And then look at the, like, even the knees on this guy. And you don't even really see them when he's standing upright and they're kind of tucked away. Like, the fact that there's all that detail, I think it's incredible. So, a very cool figure. And he poses pretty well. Like, you can see how far he can get his legs over. He bends his knees. He can do a side kick. Get his arms side to side. Now, his movement is a little bit hindered because he has, like, these shoulder pads and, like, the knee things actually get out of the way pretty well of his articulation. You see, it's a little awkward there, but it doesn't really hinder the movement. So he poses pretty well. And that was probably the biggest improvement in Spawn figures compared to the ones in the 90s, is that a lot of the ones in the 90s were almost like statues. They barely moved. This guy here moves really well. Anyway, to get back to why I did not buy this guy right away. And it's because I loved the original Mandarin Spawn so much that this guy, as cool as he is, he just fell flat when compared to the original. And he still falls flat. Like, sure, he's got better articulation, but it's just such a far cry from the figure that I loved for so long. And here is the original Mandarin Spawn. I'm not sure what year he was first released. It was in like the kind of mid to late 90s. I don't know, maybe 97, 98, I don't know. But this was an original creation. Like, this was not based on any character from the comic book or anything at the time. He has since appeared in the comic book. But back then, McFarlane was just making all kinds of different variations of spawns from different timelines, and he came up with some really cool stuff. And this guy here, the Mandarin spawn, like, look at that detail. Now, compared to the figure we just looked at, like, all these layers and all this paint, all this sculpting, the chest armor, those little heads and stuff that we saw on the shoulder pads. There's just so much more of the detail that's painted. He's got more weapons, for one thing. Like, look at this shield. That's an awesome shield. The new guy did not come with a shield, but I won't hold that against him. This guy did come with some additional weapons that I don't have on him at the moment. Let me just get his shield off here. But just to give you an idea of how much they've kind of downgraded their figures, in case it's not immediately obvious to you, is let's look at those knee pads. So, again, this guy's knee pad. Lots of great sculpting, but not much in the paint department. Now, the old Spawn, and you really can't see his knees, because this guy does not pose. Like, his legs don't go out to the side or anything. So you really don't see those things when he's sitting in your shelf. But you move this aside and look at the detail in those knee pads. All that paint, and all throughout his toes and his boots and his armor. And maybe it's still not super obvious to you that this guy's a bit of a step down from the front, because they do both look pretty good. But when you turn these guys around, you can see where they save some money on paint apps on this guy. He's pretty much solid black. Even his red skirt piece is just solid red. There's not a whole lot going on there on the back of this guy. Whereas this guy, you spin him around, and he's just as intricate on the back. So cool. So that's the thing. I've had this figure when it first came out in the 90s, and it has never not been on display in my collection. There have even been a couple of times in my life when I displayed very few toys. A lot of stuff had to go in storage when I was living in a bachelor apartment and stuff. But this guy has always been on display because I've always thought it was perhaps the coolest looking action figure in my entire collection. So that is why, as much as I love this character, I was reluctant to buy this new version, because it couldn't really live up to how much I liked this guy. But for $6, I bought him, and he's cool. I like that he's more posable. I like the softer plastic. He doesn't, well, to be honest, he feels a little cheaper, but in the same vein, he doesn't feel as breakable. Like, I actually feel like I could play with this guy, where that guy there I'm much more precious about, and I handle him very carefully. But anyway, I think it's pretty successful, so I am pleased with this guy, and you can't beat the price there. So there you go. That's Mandarin Spawn. So the next figure I'm going to show you is a new Dungeons & Dragons figure that came out in 2023, but I just got it very recently. So I'm not a big Dungeons & Dragons guy by any means. I grew up in the 80s, and there was, of course, the role-playing game was pretty popular among some kids, not me. There was a cartoon on Saturday morning, which I quite enjoyed, and there was a toy line. But none of them really seemed connected other than in name. Like, they were all kind of fantasy-based, but the game really didn't have anything to do with the cartoon or with the toy line and all that. I only had one Dungeons & Dragons toy when I was a kid. I loved it. It was this knight named Death. And I thought it was a really cool figure. I liked the little action feature of you push the button on his back, on her back actually, and you swing it around, and so that was kind of cool. You can see she's got like a shield here, and yeah, cool figure. But besides the knight, there were some really cool like villain characters in the line. One of them was Warduke. This guy was the big bad. And I never had this as a kid. I didn't get this until much later. But I was quite familiar with Warduke. I knew a lot of kids that had this guy. And, he was kind of just etched in my memory as like, one of those big bad guys from the 80s. And he's just super cool. Anyway, NECA last year started putting out new versions of these characters. Except they were bigger, more detailed, more articulated. And to show you what I'm talking about, here is their updated version of Warduke. So yeah, quite a bit more detailed. Lots more articulation. You know, way cooler. Anyway, even though I wasn't a huge Dungeons & Dragons fan, I did buy Warduke here last year. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I bought him last year is because so many other online toy reviewers were raving about this figure, saying how good it was, and it was probably going to be their toy of the year. And it really did. It topped quite a few lists last year of best toy of the year. People really love this. And don't get me wrong, it's cool. I don't have that same nostalgic tie to Warduke himself or the D&D brand in general. So by the end of the year, when it came time to rank my figures, I thought, you know what, this guy's really cool, but he's not going to make my best of the year list. Now, besides Warduke, they actually put out another really cool figure last year, but I didn't buy him because these figures are kind of pricey. They're about $60 Canadian, and I justified it for Warduke, but I couldn't do it for the other figure, Grimskull. However, just the other week, I found Grimskull for about 60% off. So I got him for a nice, good price, and here he is. This is the NECA Grimskull figure. And I remember the toy of this guy from the 80s. I never had it, but again, I knew a lot of kids in my neighborhood that did. You know, he's the kind of toy you see him at flea markets all the time. He's kind of etched in my mind as well as just one of the faces of the brand. Just a really cool, menacing toy. And yeah, so now I've got him. And this guy's big. You know, these are, you know, I thought Warduke was big, but you can see this guy is even taller. He's even beefier. And yeah, he's just cool. Now, he doesn't stand up super great. I keep finding his ankles are a little weak and he's kind of heavy, so he just keeps toppling over. Maybe I just need to mess with his ankle joints a little bit more, but I am finding them a little weak. Every time I take my eyes off him, he falls forward. He's pretty heavy with the snake motif. You see he's got this weapon with a ball and chain on this cobra. Looks like something right out of, you know, Serpentor's armory. He's got this snake knee pad, this crazy snake shield, and probably craziest of all is this snake wrapped around his body, which is, you know, it's almost so corny. It almost diminishes his menace. But it's, you know, it's still pretty cool. It's pretty fun. Yeah, so the snake coils around his whole body. Got the little rattle there at the end. But yeah, great figure. I like all the kind of weathering on his armor. And the like the paint wash. So it brings out all that sculpted detail of his chainmail and everything. Just looks really cool. He also had a bunch of extra hands. He came with this sword as well. So lots of accessories. Great head sculpt on this guy. These things here you can articulate. I'm not sure which way they're supposed to go. I think they're supposed to point forward. So that's how I have them. But yeah, he's really cool. He moves well. Lots of accessories. Beautiful paintwork. So yeah, I could definitely see how these figures could top some people's best of the year list. The thing is for me that a lot of my collecting is based on nostalgia and I just don't have the ties to these characters. But this guy is still pretty awesome, and he displays really nicely with my Mythic Legions figures, which are also like fantasy based. So yeah, very cool. I don't know how many more of these Dungeons & Dragons figures from NECA I'll end up buying. They have put out, I think, 4 more since these two, and I don't really plan on buying them. But who knows? If I get them for 60% off at some point in the future, I may very well do that. I am hoping to get an updated version of Death sometime, because this character I do have some nostalgic attachment to, so I'm definitely looking forward to an update of her. But otherwise, I think that's really all I have to say about Grimskull. This guy's name is Grimsword, by the way. I know I just called him Grimskull, and did I call him that through the entire review? Maybe so. Anyway, that just goes to show you how little childhood attachment I have to this guy. But whether it's Grimsword or Grimskull or whatever, he's still a cool action figure. Now, you might be noticing a pattern with all these new figures I'm showing you, is that they are not really new figures. They are new to me. But I did promise myself this year going into 2024 to try and rein in the spending on action figures. So And I told myself the same thing in 2023. You would never know it because I bought so many friggin' action figures. But trust me, I wanted to buy a lot more than I did. Anyway, so there are some toys that I resisted in the hopes that I would maybe get them for a better price down the road. And this here is Darkseid, as he appeared in the Justice League movie. The movie came out in 2017. This figure, I think, came out maybe 2 years ago from McFarlane Toys. And I didn't initially get it, partly because I wasn't 100% sold on the look of this guy, and also because this was a jumbo-sized figure, and he was retailed for about $60 Canadian, and he just was not worth that to me. But anyway, I was in my local GameStop the other day, and Chad had actually got me a gift card for GameStop for my birthday, so I wanted to go in there and buy something. And I knew Chad would appreciate this because he's a big DC fan and stuff, so this is essentially my birthday present from Chad. And I think it's pretty cool, and I got him for half price. So yeah, he was definitely much more, it's easier to swallow at $30 as opposed to $60 because he's really not that much bigger than a standard figure. Here is a kind of standard DC multiverse figure at the normal about 7 inches. So this guy here stands, 9 inches, something like that. Now, one of the reasons that I was a little, not chomping at the bit to buy this guy when he first came out is because I don't necessarily love my Darkseid being this big. There is precedent for him to be this big giant guy in the comic books, but I think that was mostly introduced in the new 52 DC universe that launched, I think in, 2012 now? It was a while ago. But prior to that, Darkseid was not really portrayed as this big giant creature that towered over everybody. And my previous Darkseid figure, which I love, is this one here, which is getting much more kind of classic Darkseid look. This one was produced by DC Direct, but you can see how much smaller he is. He stands about 6 inches, which was about on par with all of the other DC figures in the line. So he could look, Superman and Batman in the eye, whereas you can't really do that with this new larger Darkseid. And in the new 52 comic books, Darkseid was portrayed to be like 20 feet tall. He was way too big. I didn't like it. He couldn't really go mano a mano with Superman. He just looked like this big crazy monster. And anyway, this size here doesn't bother me so much. He's a little big, but considering that McFarlane standard figures are 7 inches instead of 6 inches, I don't think the size discrepancy between Darkseid and Flash looks all that bad. I'm okay with him being that big. And you can also see that there's a bit of a change in design here. I'll bring this guy back out. So, this is the classic look based on Jack Kirby's artwork. This one here, they've changed him up a little bit. They've gotten rid of, he's got no shirt on, but he still has the same basic kind of skirt piece. Like on his tunic here, he's still got like the knee-high boots. Like they didn't stray too far from it. They modernized it. They did make a version of this figure with a full shirt. I think that was kind of like a chase variant or something. I don't think I've ever seen that one. And I don't know, like if I had the choice between the two, I think I would get the one with the shirt on it just because that's what I think of when I think of Darkseid. But now that I have this guy, I do actually kind of dig this look. It makes him look almost a little scarier, a little bit more alien, seeing this kind of exposed, sunken-in chest. I kind of like that they didn't just give him a big, beefy body with abs and pecs and stuff. There's something kind of creepier about him, the way he's just kind of all sunken in. And I really do like that head design. And, I have mixed feelings about the DC Cinematic Universe by Zack Snyder. I like elements of it. I don't love it. And they just seem to keep screwing things up. Like, I wish they had just made Darkseid the bad guy in the Justice League movie, but instead, he was just in a couple of little scenes, and it was Steppenwolf, his henchman, that was the big bad. And it just seemed like a misstep. Like, why not just, let's get right to Darkseid. So anyway, I do like this look. It's a cool figure. He's big. He's well articulated. He's about as well articulated as any of the other figures. Everything from toe articulation here, so you can point his toes up. He's got double jointed arms, so he gets his arm pretty far around. The knees, they look like, are they single or double? It looks like maybe just a single jointed knee there, but no matter. He's pretty good. He's so big that I'm having trouble fitting him on screen here. That's why I've got this angled the way I do. He did come with one accessory. He's got this big spear, but his hand, he's got one hand here that's his gripping hand. It's so tight, I can't get this in right now. I'm going to have to take the hairdryer to it, I think, so I can get that weapon in his hand. But that's cool. For a figure that they, market as deluxe and charge such a big price for, I wish he had some more accessories other than just the spear. I feel he could have benefited from maybe an alternate head. Maybe they could have given him removable armor so you didn't have to buy two different figures. They could have given him, laser beams that attach to his eyes. They could have given him a bunch of different hands. McFarlane's not always the best for giving you accessories, so it's not really just this figure's fault. It's a problem across the whole line. But anyway, I am glad I got this figure at the right price. So yeah, thank you, Chad, for that gift card. This guy is pretty cool. And the last thing that I'm going to show you today is another DC Multiverse figure from McFarlane Toys. This is the Anti-Monitor. And this is another big guy. He was also originally priced at like $60. He comes in a big gigantic box, but he has no accessories other than, a trading card and a little teeny display base that comes with every McFarlane Multiverse figure. So yeah, he was not worth the $60 to me either. But this figure came out last year, and I really wanted it. I don't know if it would have made my best of the year list, but when this first came out, I thought, man, I really would like to get it so it could at least be a contender, because it had that potential. Not so much for the quality of the toy, but just for the character. But I didn't buy it. This year, however, again, I got it at a really good discount. I bought this on Amazon. I can't remember exactly what I paid for him, but I think he was at least 50% off. I think I got him for $20 instead of the $60. So anyway, good deal. And a good figure. But yeah, he's big, but he's actually not even as big as Darkseid. And that, I feel like that's a bit of a problem, because this guy here is supposed to be gigantic. He is a big cosmic entity in the vein of like Galactus or something. So obviously you can't make him that big. I wouldn't have wanted them to make this thing 2 feet tall, because then he would have been, $200 or something. So I'm glad that they made a version of the Anti-Monitor that was, big and still affordable, not enough to break the bank or anything, especially at a huge discount. But, like compared to a regular DC guy, like he does not look big and menacing. The fact that he's even shorter than Darkseid, I don't have a real solution for this, because, they couldn't make him to actual scale, but I wish he was a little bit bigger. Definitely bigger than Darkseid and Steppenwolf and Swamp Thing, some of the other like large figures I have in my collection. I wish they had made him like maybe an inch or two bigger than those guys. But anyway, his design is really basic, like even compared to the Flash. I'm sorry, bringing him back out again. Like Flash has got a pretty simple design in the comic books. It's a red tights with a yellow lightning bolt. But you can see how McFarlane has added all this texture to him. He's got all these different, in his outfit, all these different lines, and the texture changes from there to there. He's got these lines sculpted in the helmet and these extra paint lines here. They make him interesting, and he looks contemporary. Whereas this Anti-Monitor, this guy looks like a toy from the 80s, which is what I wanted. I'm kind of glad that they kept it simple, but it kind of almost looks cheap by comparison to other McFarlane toys, because like, look at this piece here. Like, there's no wash over there to bring in any of the detail here. It's just big, solid. Like, those don't look like real hoses that would be pumping anything through this guy. It looks like plastic. Like, he looks very much like a toy. This almost looks like it could be the Anti-Monitor from my, like, Superpowers collection, which, that actually might work. The scale's a little bit better there. Like, here is my Superpowers Flash next to the Anti-Monitor. And yeah, I actually think that works out a little bit better. He's still not as big as he needs to be, but he feels large compared to the Flash. Plus the color scheme of being very basic, very cartoony, very 80s comic book. Yeah, it works. Anyway, I like this figure a lot. And he just, he represents an important storyline. When DC published the Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, and they introduced the Anti-Monitor as the big world-shattering villain. You know, it was a big deal, and this guy has not really appeared very much since then. So it's not like he is a main villain of the Marvel or of the DC universe the way Galactus or Thanos is of the Marvel universe, but he did make an impact. He was part of a very big, historical storyline in DC Comics, and I don't think he's ever had an action figure in any format before, so that's why I was excited about this guy. Especially considering McFarlane Toys tends to like to stick to the main characters. They keep making versions of Batman over and over and over again, and they don't really dip into the obscure characters very much. That's something I would have expected from DC Direct. But even DC Direct, as far as I know, never made the Anti-Monitor. So, I commend McFarlane for making this kind of crazy, obscure character. And yeah, I think this figure is super cool. Okay, that was a lot. So let's wrap this up. Why don't you sign us off here, Chad?
All right, so if you watched, well, obviously you watched, but
yes,
if you liked what you saw, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us comments. What did you like about this? What did you like anything from my haul? Is there any toy brands you'd like to see us dive into?
Whatever. Just say whatever.
Just leave us some comments.
Any engagement is good. So, if you just want to call us names or something.
Populate that algorithm.
Exactly.
Right. But yeah, so do all those things, and until next time, keep collecting.
Ciao.